Welcome to episode 2 of Twin Cities Trekkies. I am Wes.
And I'm Mackenzie.
Okay, and today we're going to be talking about our favorite Star Trek episodes that we like from any of the shows. There may be some surprises, so giddy up.
Yeah.
But definitely, if you have any suggestions for episodes or feedback on this episode or the last one, please email us at twincitiestrekkiespodcast@gmail.com or go to facebook.com/TC Trekkies Pod. You can comment on the episode below when it's published to that website, and any future comments you make may be featured in a future episode of this podcast. Definitely. So, okay, so let's start off with. I think we should go in series chronological order, if that's okay. Regarding our favorite episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, okay, so I'm gonna start from the original series and go TNG that way on. So, okay. I mean, granted, it might be a little bit harder when it comes to Lower Decks and Picard, but that's okay. I can probably come one or two from each season from that one. But definitely. So from the original series, I'm gonna start off with Where No Man's Gone Before, second pilot. I like this episode because it's just has a lot of action and stuff like that, especially character development for Kirk. Especially for that. Definitely for that. But I'm gonna start with mine. So, and then I think I'm gonna come up with 5. I'm just gonna do it from the top of my head because I know most of them. So, and then I like Mirror Mirror from season 2. Because the first Mirror Universe, I'm actually a big fan of the Mirror Universe episodes.
Yes.
Especially except for one, actually, and it's Resurrection from Deep Space Nine, the one where the Mirror Universe crosses over into ours. But definitely that Mirror Mirror, because I like the Mirror Universe. I like the Terran Empire. Granted, it's a little bit like we're going through now, but we went through before. I should say.
Yeah.
I should say. But yeah, definitely I like the way it was done. Have you ever seen Star Trek Continues, Kenzie, at all?
No, I haven't.
It's a fan show.
Another bucket list item of things I need to watch.
It's on YouTube and stuff like that. It's a fan series. They actually did a continuation of that story, called Fairest of Them All. And it's pretty much what happens to the Enterprise crew after the Prime Timeline crew return, when the Mirror Universe crew returns to their Enterprise. So it's actually really, really well done regarding that. So it's a really good continuation of that story. Definitely for that. Doomsday Machine, obviously. Everyone picks that one. I seen that always on top 10 lists of the original series episodes because it's just like with Commodore Decker being a madman, pretty much like I want to kill this thing. And I have some kind of this is one that people think that why you would like this, but I like it. Spock's Brain.
Yeah.
Yep. I like Spock's Brain because it's just silly.
Yeah.
It's just silly. Things like and then episodes like the Enterprise incident from season 3. That's a very good one. I like that one. And I do like the final one, Turnabout Intruder, because it's so stupid. But it's just a guilty pleasure episode for me. I like Turnabout Intruder, even though it's highly sexist.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it because it's the stupidity.
Yeah.
I think
there's a lot of like good, just fun episodes. Like you don't have to like every episode just because of like the storyline. Sometimes it's just funny episodes.
Fun fact: I haven't actually watched most of the third season of the original series, so because it's lower in quality. It's like most of the episodes from third season of that show is downhill as opposed to seasons 1 and 2. But and then okay, on to like, have you ever seen the animated series at all, Kenzie?
Yes.
Okay.
I've seen snippets of the original series animated series. It's great.
Yeah, I like that too. So
well done.
Yeah, it is. Like there's some episodes there I like Yesteryear and the one where they go back in time. Spock goes back in time to save himself from yep, and then stuff like that. Like and the counterclock incident, which is a good one. The final episode of that, which they go back to an animary universe where everything runs backwards.
I always love like time episodes, like where there's something being affected by altering history or the timeline, like City on the Edge of Forever. I mean, that's like the classic, like everybody loves the original series. Like that episode is like an iconic episode.
Yes, definitely. Definitely City on the Edge of Forever. Yeah. Like I'm gonna mention that episode when I talk about Discovery. Actually,
yeah, so, that's my dad. My dad pretty much ruined Discovery. I mean, not like ruined. I mean, like I was happy, but he had like sent me, something about Discovery, and it was like, oh my gosh, like they like it's City on the Edge of Forever, and I'm just like, what?
Yeah,
like,
the
oh
Guardian of Forever.
Dad.
Oh,
yeah,
like,
so cool.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, I mean, great. I'm gonna mention that when I get to Discovery. So, but definitely Next Generation. I like Skin of Evil, even though people don't like it.
Yeah.
I do like that one. I do like episodes like that. Conspiracy, one with the binars 11001001. I do like some episodes from the first season of Next Generation, but overall it's horrible.
Yeah,
it is horrible.
The closest is like the second season. Like I really liked the trial, the Measure of a Man, Data's trial with Maddox.
Mm-hmm. Like I was gonna mention
which, again, coming up, and like it's like those connecting episodes where like reference again. Maddox doesn't refer to Data as a being, but an it and a thing that can be operated on, and wants to take him apart and analyze him, and they fight for his rights. They fight for his humanity. They're like, no, he's not an it, he's a he. And he deserves to be a sentient being that decides this himself. It's not the Federation that decides whether or not to take him apart and analyze him. It's Data. And Data didn't want that to happen because he was unsure about what the effects would be around him. But that he wasn't treated, that his opinion on the matter wasn't treated as something that could even be considered. And I always love that episode because they have to force themselves to be unbiased in a trial and, actually argue what does it mean to be a human being or a living being in this universe. And, luckily he wins it and then gets to finally be referred to as a he by Maddox, like a person.
Yeah.
And just really, I really like that episode because it was just such a cool analysis on, like, what does it mean for Data to be alive?
Yeah.
And who has rights to him? What does it mean to have rights to somebody? And when does it mean to, like, dismiss or acknowledge people's opinions on who they are in the world?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm going to mention this too, Kenzie. I don't know if you have ever seen it, but that's okay if you haven't. I actually have season 2 Blu-ray of Next Generation, and in that set, there's an extended version of Measure of a Man.
I did not know that.
What the backstory behind that is, Melinda Snodgrass, who wrote the episode, she had kept a VHS first cut copy of the episode.
That's cool.
And when they were remastering TNG for the Blu-rays for Blu-ray, CBS was very interested in that work print because they wanted to show this version to the fans, this extended version, and they were able to do it. They actually were able to get it fully remastered that way. And there's a lot of character development that is sorely missed I
Oh
mean,
wow, I'm gonna have to
for
write that down and
yeah, it's like
because I love
it
that
has like
episode.
character moments for Data, a little bit of backstory for Picard, actually, a little bit, just a little bit. That's not like this is a little bit of it, but it's not like major or anything like that. But there
Yeah,
are character moments from the runtime's a little over an hour, but just a little over
eh,
an hour. But
worth it.
it's worth it. It is worth
Yeah,
it. I mean I've watched that extended episode a few times. I actually enjoy it more than the actual version that aired. So, but definitely Measure of a Man, definitely, and definitely that should be required viewing if you ever see the first season of Star Trek Picard.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, like that. I mean, I've been watching Picard. I'd seen like part of it, but right away, like I like being like Maddox. I'm like, yeah, buddy. Like I remember it's my favorite episode, and interacting with him and like what is like his work in the Star Trek universe and how it's like
mm-hmm.
influencing what's happening at that point. So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's just wild. And like Next Generation overall, I feel like has the most like put on like pleasant episodes where you can just put one on and enjoy it. Like especially with all the episodes where they do holodeck stuff in like time periods. Like the period episodes are just so like
Yeah.
just so good. Like going to Scotland and like being Sherlock Holmes and getting to like
Yep.
experience these time periods through the holodeck. Like I definitely enjoy getting to put on episodes of TNG, like just overall like enjoying them regardless of the content.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Another one from you mentioned Elementary. You kind of didn't mention it by title, but it's Elementary Dear Data. I do like that one. I do like the sequel, Ship in a Bottle from season 6. The one where Moriarty keeps Picard, Barclay, and Data in the same ship. It's like holodeck within a holodeck.
From season 6, I really like Birthright.
Like, really, I think that's kind of weak, but that's just me.
I mean, like it's a 2-parter, so it's like I guess I liked it for a lot of diving into Worf and what it means for him to exist in a world like where he sees like he doesn't really benefit a lot from the Klingon culture.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to see him have to come face to face with his own like biases against Romulans and things that he feels are important to Klingons, but sees that they're not really that important in certain societies. Like it's just this thing where like nobody's right or wrong in how they're executing their lifestyle, but just this weird feeling of like feeling the need to push your beliefs on others or push a certain status quo on the situation, like seeing Worf kind of go in and mess up a perfectly good situation for people just because of his own cultural take on what it means to be a Klingon, and seeing these Klingons living with Romulans and being like, no, this isn't right. Like, I have my own biases about this, and this is why you shouldn't be like this. But everyone's like, I don't agree, and stirring up problems for people who are like, half Klingon, half Romulan, and what does that mean? And is there even a reality out for me outside of this encampment that I live in? Because like you already have proven to me that it would be nearly impossible for me to live normally in a society where people feel this way about Romulans and about Klingons, and then also there's the beginning of like that first episode, which I feel like is kind of weak because it's like going all over the place. But Data, has this dream about, the creator, like the doctor and stuff, or like that created him, and like, he has dreams and is trying to figure out what does that mean. Like he's dreaming, and what does it mean for me to be alive and interpret these things? And he starts painting all those pictures of like his experience and everything, like by exploring like actual subconscious thinking. And I just always thought that was a really cool episode, even though, like, I don't know, it's kind of like the beginning part is like kind of, it would have been more interesting if Worf's dad was alive. But it's like, but it in its own self, like, I guess it just gives a good dive into Worf as a person and what his like what his viewpoints he upholds about the world, how they're not right or wrong, but in the case of him trying to enforce it, that's not right. And some people agree and they go back with him to the ship and everything, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, for the people who are there now, he has given them like cultural context to what their situation is, and is it going to help them or hurt them in the, you know, in the coming future.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting perspective for me.
Yeah, I had never really thought of it that way. Yeah, so you know, you'd mentioned time episodes before. Everyone I know, and everyone in their right's mind, will mention Yesterday's Enterprise as an episode of one of their favorites, and I like it too. Especially it's really cool in HD, as opposed to SD standard definition. But yeah, definitely, definitely, I enjoy Yesterday's Enterprise and Cause and Effect. Uh, yeah, because that whole episode of Cause and Effect reminded me. I mean, when I saw Discovery's Magic Science Man Go Mad from season 1 of Discovery, the one with Harry Mudd, doing the time loop with the Discovery crew, and Bowie's blowing up the ship, it reminded me so much of Cause and Effect.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like, yeah, I like those time loop kind of episodes, that kind of thing. And then Best of Both Worlds, obviously. And a fun fact, when I was in school, I did a radio show. For the 25th anniversary of its first airing, I played the soundtrack on my radio show.
Oh, really?
I actually had a CD of the soundtrack from that two-parter, and I played some of the music cues from both parts because it was 25 years when I did that episode, and I was like, okay, I really want to do this because it would be fun to do because that's one thing about Star Trek I love is musical score, especially when it comes to the films, but more so, and I like some of them in the series as well.
Like I love that it interplays. It's orchestrated to the situation.
Yes,
which is kind of missing in a lot of like modern television.
Yes,
like when you actually watch it, especially in the older series, you know, like there's like a full like orchestral numbers happening with them like moving around on the ship and you know, like running in a scene, like talking to each other, and it's just it's crazy how much music can add to the theatrics of an episode and how to feel about what's happening. Like you could just lay over some random music and hello bird clock. I just enjoy when scenes are orchestrated with music, and Star Trek does a wonderful job of doing that.
Yeah. So I do like that, especially when it comes like huge credit to Jeff Russo who does the music now for Discovery and Picard. Especially when they did season 3, they had to do everything that was not filmable remotely because of COVID-19. So, including the music and the visual effects and stuff like that. So, I gotta give them huge props for trying to do that in season 3 of Discovery for recording them all remotely and stuff like that. Recording his orchestra remotely too. It's actually pretty impressive. And I think it's really great that they do that. He did that. He probably will do it now with season 4 being in production.
Yeah.
But about Mr. Russo, I do like the Picard theme. I do like that very much.
Yes.
And it's kind of crazy that a part of that was from The Inner Light. Which is actually one of my favorite episodes. I like The Inner Light from Next Generation.
Yeah.
And I hope they bring that up somehow in Picard. I mean, I hope somehow it's like it was followed upon in the next season, when he had a romantic relationship, but Picard did. But then I hope they make some mention of it in Picard somehow. Like maybe an off reference. I don't know, but
yeah, I mean, like that melody is just so iconic. So I feel like, I mean, like that. I mean, Inner Light is considered one of the best episodes of
Next
like
Generation. Yeah.
Next Generation. But it's like that. It's just such a iconic melody, that little like flute. So it's like, of course, like they'd have to use it, and then of course Picard played his little flute. I think it's a good way of like wrapping it all together.
Yes, I agree 100%. So yeah, definitely. I do want to mention one episode from the final year of Next Generation, Parallels. The one where Worf is jumping through realities, especially when he's on First Officer with Riker as the captain, and stuff like that. And it was a timeline where the Borg were defeated by Riker. the Borg, the best of both worlds, actually did work. It actually did work and killed him. It killed Picard, but yeah, especially with that, I do like Parallels. But then, I like that one, and also like Force of Nature, the one with the subspace rift, and it's like apparently it was a metaphor for the global warming crisis. That was like that Al Gore had mentioned back in the 90s. I guess.
Yeah.
The climate crisis. So I guess it was a metaphor for that, from what I understand. So it makes sense now when I think about it now. When I watch it now with that perspective, now knowing that knowledge, I'm going like, yeah, it makes pretty sense. But definitely. I want to move on to DS9 if that's okay.
Yeah.
All right. There is one episode from the first season of DS9 that I know that many fans love, and that is called Duet, in which the crew transports a Cardassian. His name is Eamon Maritza, and they find that he actually is he's suffering from a disease that was in the Bajoran labor camps, and he apparently he was surgically altered to look like the butcher of a forced labor camp.
Yeah.
And they were thinking that, and people were going all over, going like, this is the guy. But he's not. He was surgically altered to be like him. Just so they make a point about what happened during the Bajoran occupation. And unfortunately he dies at the end. But spoiler alert for anybody who's not seen that episode. But I enjoy that immensely. That's a very powerful story through and through. It forces Kira to confront her own prejudices regarding the Cardassians. And it's definitely a good story about prejudice. That, it's like, you can either confront them head on or deal with them, confront them head on and learn how to deal with your prejudices and hopefully move beyond your prejudices and actually come up with respect for someone or something. Yeah.
I guess from the first season, I like Duet. Like, I guess that's just kind of sets up a lot of like historical and like the actual historical political stuff that's happening, like with the history with Cardassians and the Bajorans. Like, it's just setting up a lot of that.
Yeah.
That history, because I mean, like, that's probably the biggest thing that's so daunting about Deep Space Nine is it's trying to cover this whole like, intergalactic battle that's been happening, because we all like grew up hearing about like Romulans, Klingons, and the Federation, and hearing that whole spiel. So a lot of people have a good like understanding of where that's ended. It's in the past, and people can move on from it. But with like the current events of like being on Deep Space Nine and dealing with the aftermaths of like what like not only that, but then like Dominion as well. Like, you have the Dominion stuff, and then you have the aftermath of like Cardassians and the Bajorans, and how that like it's such a big thing to cover.
Yes,
like,
definitely.
Lots of political allusions and like being able to like allude to those situations now. Like, I mean, I've seen it a lot with like Gul Dukat. Like, there was a whole like Twitter dedicated to every time Trump tweeted there was like a mirror Twitter account for Ducat where it was an interpreted version in like the Federation, like Star Trek universe, and he was like his Twitter handle was the real Donald Trump, but someone would be like the real Gal Ducat. And this person, whoever runs that Twitter account, I'm like, kudos to them, because they would consistently mirror every single tweet that Trump ever tweeted with like a Ducat version of it, and it's just so funny. And I'm like, but really, like great character development in its own way, like a great illusion, I guess.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, Duet. Yeah, definitely from season 1. Also, the finale of season 1, which is called "In the Hands of the Prophets," regarding secular teachings of religion and stuff like that, because Bajorans viewed the wormhole as a celestial temple, and Keiko O'Brien is doing a scientific version of that.
Yeah,
it's science versus it's a classic story of science versus faith.
And how they're so similar yet can be so different for some people.
Yeah, definitely. And
I always argued that those were the same, but it's all based on interpretation and how you were raised. But I'm like, when people believe in science, it's its own form of faith, really. Like when people go, you have no faith, or if you don't believe in a religion, like that you are faithless. And it's like, no. Everyone has faith in something. Otherwise, how are they continuing to stay alive?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. So, definitely. In the Hands of the Prophets, definitely a good one from that. Especially with the science versus faith argument, stuff like that. And I really love that, because that's actually the first time we actually see Kai Wynn. Yeah, and whenever I saw her, whenever I watch DS9 now, if she ever shows up, I get immediately pissed.
Yeah.
Because she reminds me so much of, what was Trump.
Yeah.
Because she gets me just as angry as he did. With all her meddling and that kind of thing. But that's beside the fact. But then. Now, going off what I said about actions have consequences, from season 2 of DS9, I love the episode Crossover, the first Mirror Universe episode set in the 24th century, when Kira and Bashir travel through the wormhole and end up in the Mirror Universe. Yeah, and the Mirror Kira mentions about what happened after Kirk left, and our Kirk left. And stuff like that. The Terran Empire collapsed, and now all the Terrans are being slaves, or like most of them are, or stuff like that. So, Kirk had stirred in that mirror Spock. You need to change the way you're doing things, or else you're gonna collapse under yourself, under your own brutality. In mirror, and then Kirk had made that choice. And now the consequences of that choice are now seen through the eyes of Bashir and Kira. So, the Terrans are being, like I said, being oppressed, that kind of thing, and they were just, and then it's the actions have consequences. I love that episode just for that reason, and
Yep. And I love when there's these really deep commentary episodes like that where. You're analyzing something like actions having consequences, and the repercussions of decisions that are made in the show, and that and how they linearly run, and how that's going to come up later on, and especially with all the political and social things that are going on in Deep Space Nine, there's so many of those episodes where you're really deeply analyzing what it means to exist in those situations, and it's really easy to make direct interpretations of things happening today, and the aftermaths of wars and hard feelings about certain parts of the world and for certain people, just as a lot of the characters struggle with in that show because of who they are.
Yeah, definitely.
But also, Deep Space Nine has some hilarious episodes.
Yes,
like,
and I'll get to
they're really
those.
good at being lighthearted, like the Magnificent Ferengi.
Yep.
Like, what a great episode! Like, and like that's what I appreciate about Star. Like when people, I've tried to introduce people to Star Trek. A lot of people get into the like, I don't want to watch something that makes me have to like, you know, really hardcore analyze some of this political commentary and social commentary happening, because for a lot of people, like, that's a reality right now that it's hard to get through, and some people just don't want to watch like a sci-fi take on scenarios that are really similar to what's happening right now. But I'm like, I promise you, there's also a lot of just hilarious episodes, like from any series, like, or there's ones that are like really campy, that are really bad. They're so bad they're funny, like in Voyager, the Tuvix episode where they merged Neelix and Tuvok together, like. It's a terrible episode, but it's hilarious. Like, I don't know, like, I think it's super funny. But, like, the Magnificent Ferengi is just another, like, just hilarious. And Jeff Combs. Oh, like, Jeffrey Combs is, like, a great person. So, anytime he pops up, I'm like, yes.
Yeah, I love Jeffrey Combs, too. Yeah, especially when he was in Enterprise at Strand. But,
yeah.
But he also was good in DS9 as Wayun at Brunt. But, I hope he's... And I know I started this petition on change.org. I had started a petition for him to be Dr. Philip Boyce in Strange New Worlds. That'd
be awesome.
It would be awesome.
He should be involved, because he just needs to be playing, like, at the very least, he has to just be like a million characters in the show. It's like, hey, can we just have a whole show where Jeffrey Combs plays every character? Like, and that's it. Just have it be a whole show where it's just him playing characters, because I'd watch it.
Yeah, I'd watch it too. But definitely going back to DS9 here, another favorite episode of mine is The Way of the Warrior, which introduced Worf to the series.
Yes, that is such a good episode.
And I like it for another reason, and this is kind of something that I really love the visual effects in that episode, especially when the Klingons attack DS9, and all the scenes are like, boom, boom, boom. It's like, I love it. I love it for that reason, actually. I like it for the visual effects, because by that time they had gone completely CGI. So they were able to do like a lot of CGI visual effects, even though it was expensive. So to make it at the time in the 90s. And that's the reason why they're not remastering Voyager and DS9 right now, because all the digital files have to be recreated.
Yeah.
So, and it's a more of a daunting process than it was for doing the Next Generation remastered. So that's the reason why. But that's the reason why there isn't a lot of there's a lot of push to get it done, but then there's a lot of back push from it. So, especially from the powers that be, from Viacom CBS. Because granted, some of the HD footage was remastered for the DS9 documentary "What We Left Behind," but that was pretty cool, and I hope that would be like a jumping point for them to like think, okay, let's remaster the entire show. But obviously, I hope they do eventually. But especially if it gets us, have everything in HD for Paramount Plus. That'd be ideal for me, but that's just me. But but definitely for that. But definitely, if they ever did remaster DS9, I would love to see that all in HD, especially with the big battle scenes when we get to that part of the series where big battles were mostly shown, especially in the last 4 years of DS9, starting back in season 3 and then all the way up to the end of the series. Seeing all that remastered would probably be pretty cool. But definitely, another funny episode that I know you mentioned the Magnificent Ferengi. You can't forget about Little Green Men.
Yeah.
The one where Nog, Rom, and Quark we're going to travel Nog to the Starfleet Academy and end up in Roswell in the 1940s.
Yes. I love episodes like that. That's another amazing one.
And then and the humans think that they're Martians.
Yeah, Martian. I always love. I
Uh,
love that they
yeah,
call Martian anything that's an alien, like old school alien talk, being like they must be from Mars.
yeah. Yeah, I made that definitely for that. Yeah, definitely. I like that for that reason. Yeah, especially the Magnificent Ferengi. I like that one, especially when they try to do that drill. They try to do a simulation version of rescuing, Moogie. They fail
Yeah.
horribly at it.
Besides those like time episodes, like I love when they go back, like when
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek touches on current time period. Like
Yes.
I think all of them do that. I mean, like in the movie, in the
Voyage Home.
original series,
Yeah, yeah.
they go to that current time, and it's like, oh, pollution, like what a strange time to live in this industrial age. And in
Yeah.
Voyager, they go back in time to
The
the
90s.
90s, like mid 90s, and Sarah Silverman's in that episode. Like she works on SETI and stuff, and it's just like it's kind of just a cool take of trying to follow the Prime Directive and
Yeah.
Deal with the temporal rift and getting back all the getting back the technology that they accidentally introduce.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I can get to Futures in a minute, but there was one episode. I was thinking of it. I may have switched my thought. Speaking of like you mentioned like doing back in time for that. We can't forget about Far Beyond the Stars. Yeah, that one is amazing, especially in these times.
I'm trying to remember which one is that? I'm
The
trying to
one
remember.
where Cisco,
They go back to the 50s.
yeah, it's been the
right?
50s, and all the crew are like science fiction writers.
Yeah,
And Cisco is
yeah.
Benny Russell and that kind of thing, and
Dang,
he makes up that
I've seen
story,
one.
Deep Space Nine.
What season is that from?
6.
That's season
That's
6?
in 6.
Yeah.
That's in 6. Yeah, definitely, because especially at the end when he's fired, when Benny Russell is fired and is because of his story, because he had an African American hero, a black hero, and he wouldn't, and the publisher wouldn't publish his story, and now he has a nervous breakdown, and he gets fired, and I remember last year, and it was going to be kind of dated, but what happened last summer in Minneapolis with George Floyd.
Yeah.
The Star Trek the Star Trek page on social media had played that scene, like I think it was on the 2nd or something like that, on when the social media blackout day.
Yeah.
And they had played that scene, and it says we race matters, culture matters, that kind of thing, and we stand in solidarity with the African American community, that kind of thing. I remember seeing that. I remember seeing that when it was during that day, June 2nd of 2020, and they had played that scene on that, and it was pinned to their page. It still is, and they played that scene, and like I said, that kind of thing. The race matters, culture matters, representation matters. Yep. And and definitely, that episode should be viewed in these times.
Yeah. Well, that's that's an important part of it. There's so many episodes of Star Trek that offer so much commentary and reflection on previous situations, like what it means to exist, the civil equality and civil equity of people, enemies that become friends, and wartime, and what does war do to societies, like what does being poor in the 24th century and 25th century look, it's all this commentary on how to live in certain times and unprecedented times. And that's why I like Star Trek. There's so much of that. I mean, it's just rich with being able to analyze those types of situations. I feel like you could find a Star Trek episode for every social commentary or insight that you want to analyze.
Yeah. Or, something tragic happens, like we had a few weeks ago, and you watch an episode just to make yourself feel better, that things will get better.
Yeah.
That's what I actually ended up doing that day when the U.S. Capitol was stormed.
Yeah.
I had to I lost all focus that day,
Oh yeah.
and I had to watch an episode of Star Trek just to tell myself that things will get better. And I remember that
Yeah.
story from Patrick Stewart. He had mentioned that when they had dedicated the Gene Roddenberry building in 1991 on Paramount Studios lot, but then he also mentioned it in a special feature for the first 6 movies, the Captain Summit, hosted by Whoopi Goldberg, and had Leonard Nimoy, William Shatner, Jonathan Frakes, and Patrick Stewart. He mentioned the story about he had gotten a fan letter from a sergeant in the Las Vegas Police Department, and the letter said in part that there were really bad days in his job, like really, really bad days. Like his view of humanity was so low that he would that his solution to that was to go home and put in a tape of Star Trek and know that things will get better. That's what I did that one day.
Yeah,
that's what I did.
I feel that there's like people's comfort shows, and for some people that is definitely
a comfort
Star
show.
Trek. Like I have episodes that I love to rewatch if I'm ever feeling down or just being like, I want to see a certain. I just want to have them in a certain mood. I want to see something funny, or I want to see like a really inspirational episode, or anything like, or just like a really cool thought experiment episode. Like one of my favorite thought experiment episodes that like dabbling was like time dilation episodes. Like in Voyager in season 6, there's an episode called Blink of an Eye.
Oh yeah, that's one. Yeah.
And they see an entire like society develop right in front of them because they're accidentally caught in the planet's gravity. But they see the whole society like develops in front of them in this, like in the series of a couple hours, and they're like, they realize it, and they're like, we're gonna see this like society rise and fall like right before our eyes, and what an interesting analysis. But that they're like the subject of that whole rise and fall on the planet because they're a star to them, like up in the sky, and it leads like this entire like they just influence this entire history of this planet in mere moments. And when they can finally make contact, it's just like, wow, you guys have no idea, but we've just been trapped for about an hour here. But yeah, you guys have been watching us for literally thousands of years, and this is like a huge milestone for you.
Yeah.
But just like thought experience like that, where I'm like, wow, like seeing things like that, where like my dad and I would just watch episodes where we just want to see some weird time dilation or some weird thought experiment of like, what if, like, or what about this type of scenario? What happens when you do this with some sort of like scientific like theory? What happens when that's bent or does something different than what we expect? Like, how do we handle that? Voyager does a lot of stuff with that because they're out in the Delta Quadrant and in unprecedented situations, dealing with unknown things, like truly unprecedented in their journey back. And under the impression of like necessity and desperation because they have limited resources that they have to keep trying to restock as they make their way back to the Alpha Quadrant.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm just going to move on from DS9. There's plenty of other episodes that everyone else enjoys. I'm going to move on to Voyager. One I really do enjoy, and I watch it once in a while, and I like rewatching this episode. It's from the first season, which, in my opinion, Voyager's first season is a little bit uneven, but it's not as uneven as, say, Next Generation is. Yeah,
well, and they also just had, like, a really intense, like, pilot episode, like, Caretaker, such a insane first episode. Like, what a thing to follow. And, like, after that, it's, like, it sets up the whole story and, like, just a really cool episode anyway. And it's, like, how do you even approach that?
Yeah. It's called Jetro. And it's the one where Neelix, when the person who created the mass weapon of destruction against the Talaxian people, says that Neelix may have this disease when in reality he does, and he's trying to resurrect the people of his home, Neelix's home world. So, and Neelix for the first half of the episode is very, very hostile toward him because he had in the deployment of this weapon, the Metreon Cascade, he killed his family. He had killed his family. He had been the monster that he had been, unfortunately it's kind of sad that his family was afraid of him too, and left him. But Neelix is very hostile, that kind of thing. But by the end of the episode, before he dies, he tells him, "I forgive you," and I think that's a powerful ending. And because then he shortly then dies, but Dr. Jetro dies, but Jetro, and then he tells him he forgives him, and he smiles and he says something, and then he dies mid sentence. But but I think
to be forgiven for like almost pretty much war crimes of like hating them just because of who they are and doing terrible things to what is Neelix? Talaxian?
Yeah.
Wow.
There's terrible things to the Talaxian people, and then he, at the end of the episode, he comes to him in sickbay when he's dying, and then he goes, "I want to let you know that I forgive you."
Yeah. Which, talking about like a previous episode about favorite characters, Neelix is one of my favorite characters because I don't know, he's just like a happy-go-lucky guy. He's always optimistic and resourceful and just a very happy character. And people might think he's annoying, but I relate with him because I sometimes can be a little overjoyed or a bit too much for some people, and I love him being embraced for being that way, which I always hope that I would be embraced the same way.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I like Neelix too. And I think he's only annoying when he goes off the deep end.
Yeah.
Especially, like, I recall an episode from the first...
goes up a little too up of his intuition sometimes.
Yeah, he's like... I remember this early episode in which Voyager goes to this nebula and goes like, these people are idiots. Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
You take us back into this thing, and I'll just go back in my shuttle. I'll just go home. I'll just go in my shuttle and wait for you guys to come back.
Yeah.
He goes out the deep end a few times. And that's what fortunately most people associate with him being annoying, like you said. But definitely he grows on me too, especially when he comes back, especially in episode Mortal Coil from season 4. He dies, but then Seven brings him back to life. He has this existential crisis of, did I really die? Or, and he wants to die now, but then it's just, that's one of my favorites from Voyager is Mortal Coil.
Yeah, Mortal Coil, I like that episode too.
Yeah, it's just an existential crisis about, like, did I really die?
What happens after you die?
Did I really die here? Or, did I ask to be brought back? But then you mentioned Future's End. I like that two-parter, especially,
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely for growth for the Doctor, because now you can move out of sick bay. But,
yeah.
But
it's a big deal getting that
freedom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that freedom. He can leave sick bay now. But,
and speaking of the Doctor, the episode Tinker Tailor Doctor Spy.
Oh yeah,
I like that one too. Another funnier episode too.
Especially there was one of his daydreams in that episode where the warp core was going to breach, and the computer says, "Warning: warp core breach a lot sooner than you think."
Yeah.
I do remember that. Warp core breach a lot sooner than you think. Yeah, I do like that one. And, Blink of an Eye is a good one, too. Don't forget Timeless. It was the 100th episode, and it's like the one where Harry and Chakotay try to save Voyager from being crashed into the ice planet.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like Minnesota right now.
Yeah.
As we're recording this, it's like really cold outside, guys.
Yeah, it's like a solid 5 degrees out or something.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I have to look up what the wind chill is.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like really bad. So, but definitely, Timeless, definitely. And I do like the one, what was it called? Author from the last season. It was kind of like Measure of a Man a little bit, in which they're trying to fight for the Doctor's rights as a person, because he's a hologram. But then when you made that story, Photons Be Free,
Yeah.
making like holographic, holographic people, are they real people? I like that one because of some of the silly parts of the episode just make me want to laugh, especially when Tom Paris does his own version of it.
Yeah, I like Paris.
Oh, it hurts when I do this, and then don't do it.
Don't do it. I love so many of the characters. Like most of my favorite characters from Star Trek are from Voyager.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of.
I like how Tom Paris plays off of like B'Elanna Torres because I love B'Elanna.
Oh,
and
yeah.
like her like again like dealing with identity stuff like that Star Trek does a really good job of addressing like who are you in this world, like as someone who is half Klingon and half human, or being an android or being half Vulcan, and where like your cultures contradict each other, or like what does it mean to be like a prisoner of war Klingon, and where it's considered dishonorable and that you don't deserve to live anymore because you didn't die honorably. Like Star Trek just has such good commentary on what it means to be yourself and be alive, like in your situation.
Yeah.
And like I like that. I mean, like the introduction of 7 of 9, the two-parter Scorpion. That like, and then it's such a big shift in that show because I just loved 7 of 9 growing up. Like just her growth as a character and rediscovering her humanity. So it's like that she actually had a human life and she lost it. And now how do you recover it? It's like the first, example of converting a Borg back to their original race. And how does one reclaim that identity after being assimilated?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, definitely about that. Yeah. Fun fact about Scorpion. I'm going to mention this. Jennifer Lee was not going to be the cast member who was going to leave at first.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were going to write off Harry Kim.
Oh, yeah.
But then People magazine named him one of the top 25 or top 50 hot young men in Hollywood today, or something like that. Like an article about that was published right before they were gonna film it. And so they were gonna think, okay, one of these cast members gotta go. Which one is gonna be better? Which one is gonna be removed now? And it ended up being Jennifer Lee. So that's Kes. So
Kes.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people I'd catch a ton of flack for it, that I loved Kes because of her like bubbly, like naive perspective, despite being like an insanely powerful, like cryptid type of alien, basically. Like, but I mean, some people hate her being like, "Oh God, I hate Kes." But
yeah, I know.
Like, I don't know. I really like.
I know what you mean. Yeah. I mean, I'm one of those people who doesn't like Kes either, but that's just me. So I mean, she was underutilized, underdeveloped, in my opinion. So, but I mean, if she was allowed to stay, she probably would have been better. But one of them had to go. So, anyway, what was the other one? Okay, so on the Enterprise, there's not very favorites here that I like. I do like Dear Doctor from season 1. The one where with the Valakians and stuff like that, and Archer and Phlox debate about whether or not, whether or not to let this other species, extinct themselves. I mean, wipe themselves out of existence because they will be extinct. And Phlox and Archer kind of disagree on it for a little bit, and then at the end, Archer comes to him and says, if my people are going to be out here, we need some kind of directive, to tell us, to direct us how we handle ourselves out here in space. And there'll be some kind of directive. And, because we...
Yeah, it's cool to see the birth of that.
Yeah. I love that one, Dear Doctor. And, yeah, I love that one. And from season 2... Dear Doctor. Oh, from season 1, I also like Shuttle Pod 1, the one with Trip and Malcolm are in that shuttle pod, thinking that their crewmates are dead, but then realizing that they're not, and they're gonna die of oxygen deprivation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and stuff like that. I like that one too because it's like it gives a more character development for both Trip and Malcolm, Trip and Reed, and definitely for that. Season 2.
I'm trying to remember some of the.
It was
I think the last watched series, like I mean, the furthest back series I've watched is Enterprise because I've watched it while it aired on
yeah
TV, and then I've just rewatched it randomly a few times, like a few episodes. But
yeah
it's probably my longest revisited,
yeah
longest time being revisited.
yeah. That's okay. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, from season 2, it's like it's like a toss up. I like Stigma. It's the one where the Panar syndrome, and it's how like T'Pol's gonna lose her commission, that kind of thing, and it was Elgar at the time because there's a stigma about the Panar syndrome and stuff like that. He used everything and stuff like that, and from what I understand, it was like a commentary on the AIDS epidemic. So
Yeah.
yeah. So that kind of thing. Season 3, where the Xindi arc starts, Twilight is the one that immediately comes to mind. The one it's like an alternate future. Archer gets infected with these parasites, prevents him from forming new long-term memories, and unfortunately he gets removed as captain. And unfortunately, the Xindi mission ends in failure. Earth is destroyed, and then all of humanity is kind of like almost wiped out. And it's kind of like the episode Yesterday's Enterprise for the Enterprise era. So
I remember this episode. I can't even remember what season it's from. In Enterprise, where Trip gets hurt really bad, and so Phlox, the doctor, regrows him, his organs, so that they can harvest them. But then, it's one of those weird episodes, where it's now what is this clone of Trip now? Because he's sentient and is developing relationships and being a part of the crew, and it becomes just one of those it makes me think of Voyager, which they didn't do well with the Tuvix episode. I mean, it's kind of campy, but just those types of things, who are you, and what the more early Data's trial, and what's the ambiguity around your existence? You're an anomaly. What do we do with anomalous beings? Are they treated like a race of people? Do they have their own constitutional rights, their own freedoms, things like that? How do we treat anomalous existences?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. You're thinking of the episode Similitude?
Yes, that's a problem.
Yep. Definitely, especially with the cloning has been a staple of science fiction for a long time before that. For a long time before that. One of my favorite science fiction movies is The Sixth Day, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's a good movie about cloning, in my opinion. But definitely, Similitude. Definitely, that was a good that's a good episode. Definitely, I agree 100% on that. I do like from the last season of Enterprise, which unfortunately was I was kind of hoping for a season 5 when I was watching it. I mean, I watched them as they were airing too. The one that I like the Mirror Universe 2-parter in a Mirror Darkly. They're all in the mirror. It's all in the Mirror Universe. I like that one. That's where the Defiant started. That kind of thing. And but I also like the 3-part story with Brent Spiner as Dr. Soong and trying to do another version of the Khan thing. Everyone was talking about worry about the augments, the superhumans. So that's a good one, definitely.
One episode where they go to the 20th century in Enterprise. The Vulcans do.
Yeah,
they have to blend in too. Yeah. I'm trying to think of every series I feel does a 20th century visit, and I'm trying to
there is actually, I think.
And so I was that. There's that one where they're in the U.S. or whatever.
Yep, and Carbon Creek. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Carbon Creek. Yep, definitely. Yeah, Carbon Creek's a good one. Yeah, everyone. I know that's a top 10 list on everyone's that I know I've seen. They mentioned Carbon Creek somewhere down that list. Yeah. Yeah. So, like I said, but the one I absolutely hate from Enterprise is the finale. These are the voyages.
Yeah.
The
But
only
there, and people argue what there's that other that Terra Prime
oh
or
yeah,
whatever should
yeah,
be the actual finale.
yeah. The last two-parter before that, yeah. I
Yeah.
agree. I agree 100% on that.
Yeah, the Demons of Terra Prime. Yeah,
Yeah,
whatever that
yeah. The
the
last,
episodes are called, those two-parter.
yeah, they did that. I wish they'd do that now. I mean, that was a formula that actually worked for episodes of Star Trek. Actually, I mean, I wish they would do that now instead of one overarching story. Which has been for Discovery and Picard. Do what they did for Enterprise in its last season, where it was 2 and 3 part stories and a few standalones in there, that kind of thing. I wish they'd do that at least for. I hope they do it for Strange New World. I wish they do it. I hope they do it for like Strange New Worlds, because that format actually worked for the way stories were told on Star Trek. I think that's the way stories should have been told now. But it has been like what 15 years since Enterprise went off the air.
Yeah.
So
it just had such a bad decline in its in its popularity while it was airing.
Yeah, I know it was because of internet.
Like
the internet was around.
Like, unlike other series where it did really well its first few seasons actually, and then it just went downhill.
Yep. So okay, on to Discovery. I do like I mentioned, Imagine Seeing This Man Go Mad, the one with the time loop episode, and here that's the only standalone episode so far from Discovery, actually.
Yeah.
And the 3 seasons, so far. That one with the time loop episode and Harry Mudd using time crystals to loop the ship back and forth, just so he can get the secrets of Discovery, especially the spore drive. And then I was not a big fan of how season 2 ended.
Yeah.
Of Discovery, because I feel like that was pandering to the people who were railing against it from the moment it was announced. And it's like, okay, let's put them in the future and they can be happy.
Yeah, it's tough because like when you have to start like developing more, like when you have something like Star Trek that is just such a just has such a giant canon like of information around it, and how people treat like the canon series, like it's so hard to Discovery, like once again, like another like like early on series trying to like wheedle into that timeline. Mm-hmm. And people treating it like being like, I don't think it's good enough. Like, it will never be good enough for me because we already have that timeline and Historia. We don't need someone trying to fit into it again.
Yeah, definitely. And, everyone was complaining about, like, I personally, I'm going to say this. I didn't mind them being in the 23rd century. I really didn't mind that. The only problem I really having a problem with it. In the end, it's always the characters and the stories.
Yeah.
That's it. In the end, that's the characters and the stories. So in season 2, I mean, the overall season's okay. I like it. I can't really figure out a favorite episode in there because it's like, I mean, I like the one with where they encountered the sphere for the first time. That was my favorite one for the longest time. So that's still my favorite one because we actually heard languages I'd never heard of before.
Mm-hmm.
When the universal translator went haywire.
Yeah, which I think it's like such a cool concept because like you don't think about that very often. Where it's like there's an implied like an implied knowledge that everyone that's talking on the show is speaking their native tongue, and we just like do this by translators. Like, that's how we do it. Mm-hmm. But what? Oh wait, sorry, my friend popped in for a sec. What? Oh my gosh, hold on. My cat has a mouse. I'm sorry. Oh. I gotta go save a mouse quick.
All right, so like I said, I like that one episode about the sphere. I forgot what it's called. Oh yeah, Oboe for Sharon. Sharon, I think that is called. An Oboe for Sharon. That one with the sphere. Yeah, because like you said
Oh
about the
yeah.
universal translator, that's like a a sphere thing that we that's a staple of Star Trek that we've never really seen
Take for granted.
we take for granted because, like you said, they speak in a native tongue and you know
I know. I always try to tell people that as like sort of like that's an implied like thing that's happening because everyone would try to bring up like when I had friends being like, "Well, how would they all speak English?" I'm like, "Well, they're not actually. It's like it's implied that everybody's speaking their native tongue and a translator is doing it, and that's why that episode is so cool because
yeah.
you get this opportunity to see when the translator's like, nope."
Yeah, nope. And the one we actually heard Andorian for the first time ever spoken
Yeah.
in Star Trek. At that point, it had been 53 years since we ever heard since we saw the Andorians at that point. But that was the first time we ever heard Andorian spoken. And then this other language I haven't heard of before, Wolof, which is I think which is a native tongue of some African nation. I think I'm not sure,
Yeah.
something like that. But I had never heard Wolof before. Yeah, so it was like that was new to me. So I do like that. The fact of the matter.
Yeah, I think the only other like time I'd ever seen where they struggled to like the translator realizing that it was an undocumented thing was that species in Voyager.
Yeah.
8472 or something like
Yeah,
that.
something like that. Yeah.
I can't remember anymore.
Yeah. I don't remember the episode either, but yeah.
No, 8472. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like one that you don't know. That's cool. Yeah. But then I'm gonna bring up season 3.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yep. I do have several good episodes from season 3. Season 3 of Discovery. When you do watch it, it's like a roller coaster that goes up and stays up there for a few episodes, goes down a little bit, then goes back up, and then stays there. So that's good sign. I mean, that was always a good thing for me. I did like season 3 of Discovery. Like, there were some episodes I didn't really enjoy. I mean, they were a little bit lower in my opinion, but didn't really serve the overall story of how did this galactic event happen, that kind of thing. I mean, granted, I didn't really like the explanation of what caused it. I mean, I do understand why, but at the same time, I'm going like, what the heck? It was kind of like a little bit outlandish. But there's an episode called Unification 3. And it was what has happened is pretty much what has happened to the Romulan and Vulcan peoples in the 930 years since they left.
Yeah.
And they had and Spock, and actually, what's cool is they actually used footage from Unification 2 to do the record, to remind Burnham what happened. I mean, to tell Burnham exactly what happened between Spock and Picard, when he was on Romulus, trying to do this whole unification thing with the Romulan people.
Yeah.
And they actually had reunified in that time. And it's a really cool story, and I really enjoyed it. I think it was one of my favorite episodes of Discovery as a whole.
Mm-hmm. And I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
get me all excited.
Yeah, it's really cool and stuff like that. And then there's an episode earlier in the season called People of Earth, which is actually the first episode of 3, directed by Jonathan Frakes for season 3, in which they go to Earth, but it's no longer part of the Federation. This galactic event kind of isolated them. So they have their own starships and stuff like that. They're no longer part of the Federation. So they're called the United Earth Alliance, I think it was called. So it's actually really cool. And it's really cool is actually one of the guest stars actually. She's originally from South Africa. And she had been coming into Hollywood, auditioning for a bunch of gigs, didn't really get them. And then when she got the call to audition for Star Trek, and she got the job, got the role, and I guess it's a really cool Ready Room episode too, the after show for that particular one. Jonathan Frakes mentions that as a result of Star Trek, she's gonna stay in the profession of being a professional actress. So it's actually really cool because she was about ready to quit, and then she gets this gig, and she wants to say, "Oh, I enjoy doing this. I'm gonna keep doing it." It's kind of like it's kind of a cool thing that you're so despondent about what you're currently doing, and then something happens to you personally that you go like, "Oh, I realize why I wanted to do this in the first place." So it's actually a really good episode because of what happens in the episode. Obviously, is really cool, but then the after show of that particular one is really good too. And then we have more Mirror Universe episodes in Discovery. There are a total of 6 total so far now.
Yeah.
Out of the 30 some odd episodes that have aired, which is wow. Terra Firma. It's a two-parter. It's a two-parter it's pretty much a send-off for the character of Philippa Georgiou. Yeah. Because we all know she's going to move on to the Section 31 show, which, personally, I will give it a shot, and maybe it'll be good for me. Who knows? I mean, I think it will be, personally about that show, I think it will be like a James Bond kind of show with Michelle Yeoh kicking ass.
Yeah.
Kicking ass. So, because, granted, she's 50 plus years old, but she can still kick butt. So, so, and they use the Guardian of Forever. So, it was a really cool reveal of how because in the first part, we don't know who this person is. There's there's this random planet and this random portal here. And it's like, it's so random here. But then in part 2, like it's so revealed that this person is the Guardian of Forever. So, and the reason why I had a feeling it was going to be used again, because the original writer of The City on the Edge of Forever, Harlan Ellison, passed away about 3 years ago. So, every time the Guardian of Forever was thinking about being used, Harlan Ellison would get wind of it and contact whoever was going to do it and say, "Don't do it, or else you're going to have to pay me."
Yeah.
So it's probably much like, okay, let's wait till he dies, and then we'll create we'll use the Guardian of Forever again. Yeah. So that's pretty much what happened. But overall, Mackenzie, when you get a chance to watch season 3, which I hope you will, it is a pretty good season. I mean, granted, people were going like, I feel meh about it. Me, I think it was the strongest season so far of Discovery. I mean, I liked the first season. I liked the second season, except the way it ended. Mm-hmm. And then I liked the way that they set up this new universe, this 30-second, this new future technology and stuff like that. And I hope they actually find some way of actually using these technology here in the 21st.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? With the technology that's introduced in the season, I hope that someone gets go like, oh, how can I do that?
Lots of potential plot lines to happen.
Especially here right now in the 21st century, as opposed to the 32nd century, which is where season 3 starts. Yeah. Who knows? The next generation of engineers or designers, that kind of thing, or whoever makes up these things that have been influenced by Star Trek in the past. Mm-hmm. Go like, I watched Star Trek Discovery. I see this new tech. How do I apply it here in the 21st century?
Yeah.
So
it's crazy how retroactively, like, just exploring sci-fi concepts can make a reality out of a lot of scientific theories.
Exactly, and it's really awesome that so much of our world today has been influenced by this franchise that you and I both love.
Take Star Trek.
You and I both love.
Looking into Star Trek allows us to take away a lot of cool concepts too.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's it. Do you have anything further you'd like to add?
No, just that we're going to be brainstorming some of our next episode ideas, and people have any suggestions or things you want to hear about, let us know.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to, I mean, even down to the most trivial things. Like, I was reading a whole thread about the fashion of Star Trek and, like, the influences of fashions between, like, different races. Oh. And I thought that was such an interesting concept, like, down to something like that, or even talking about particular characters or characters we love to hate.
Oh, yeah.
Or characters we hate to love.
Yeah.
Like, I'm down for a lot of topics like that, or anything that people want us to chat about and apply our experience and knowledge on.
Yeah, definitely. And I have like I said in our my post recently about this. I was like, I have a list, but it only goes so far.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
And this is for people to listen to and what people want to hear. Like, give the people what they want. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. So, until next time, live long and prosper, everyone.
Yeah, live long and prosper.